The Mafia boss saved a single mom from her dangerous ex-husband, then took her into his world. A true story. It was past midnight when Layla ran out of her apartment with her daughter in her arms and nothing else. No bag, no shoes. Just the little girl pressed against her chest and the sound of her own heartbeat in her ears. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she had to go. The street outside was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels heavy, like the whole neighborhood had pulled its curtains shut and decided not to see anything tonight. Layla's feet hit the wet pavement, and she kept moving, not looking back, not thinking past the next step. Her daughter, Nadia, 4 years old, still half asleep, had her small arms locked around her mother's neck and didn't make a sound. It was like even the child understood that right now, they needed to be invisible. She ended up on a street she had walked past 100 times, but never looked at twice. There was a restaurant at the end of the block. No sign outside, just a number above the door. 114. The lights inside were still on. Layla pushed the door open because she had nowhere else to go. Inside it was warm and smelled like coffee and old wood. The place was empty except for one man sitting at the back table alone. He was maybe late 30s, dark hair, not looking at his phone or doing anything, just sitting there like he had all the time in the world. He looked up when she came in. He looked at her face. He looked at the child, and he didn't say a word. One of his men, there were two, standing near the back wall. Layla noticed them now, moved toward her. The man at the table raised one hand slightly, just barely, and the other man stopped. He told her to sit down. He called someone quietly into the kitchen. A few minutes later, a woman came out with a blanket and a cup of warm milk for Nadia. The man himself got up, brought a chair closer to the heater, and gestured for Layla to sit there. He still hadn't asked a single question. It was only after Nadia was asleep on the small couch in the back room, tucked under the blanket like she was in her own bed at home, that Layla finally looked at the man properly and said, "I don't even know who you are." He told her his name was Tariq, and that was enough for one night. Layla's story didn't start that night. It started 8 years earlier, when she was 23 and newly arrived in the city, hopeful and a little scared, and trying to build something real. She met Kareem at a community event, and he was everything she thought she wanted: confident, well-dressed, funny when he wanted to be. They got married within a year. Nadia came 2 years after that, but by the time Nadia was born, Layla already knew she had made a mistake. Kareem was controlling in the way that sneaks up on you. At first it just looks like he cares a lot, like he wants to be involved, like he wants things done a certain way. Then slowly, very slowly, you realize you've stopped making your own decisions. You ask permission for things. You apologize when he's in a bad mood, even though you didn't do anything. You start to believe, without anyone telling you directly, that everything that goes wrong is somehow your fault. The fear came later, not all at once. Just gradually, the way cold gets into a house in winter. You don't notice it until you're already shivering. She tried to leave twice before that night. The first time, Kareem found her at her cousin's house, and cried, and promised things would change. She believed him, or maybe she just wanted to believe him. The second time, he didn't cry. He told her, very calmly, that she would never make it on her own, that she had no money, no job, no real support system, that if she tried to leave, he would make sure she regretted it. He didn't explain what that meant. He didn't have to. The night she finally ran, something had shifted inside her. She couldn't explain it exactly. She just knew that she was more afraid of staying than she was of everything that came after, and so she picked up her daughter and she left. Tariq didn't ask her to explain any of this right away. Over the next few days, because she stayed, not just that one night, but days, he gave her space and quiet and safety, which were the three things she hadn't had in years. He had a house outside the city, big, with a garden that Nadia immediately decided was hers. Layla stayed in a room with a lock on the door that worked, and for the first time in a long time, she slept through the night. She knew, even then, that Tariq was not a regular person. The men around him moved differently. People called him for things they couldn't call anyone else for. There were conversations that stopped when she walked into a room. She wasn't naive. She understood that his world had parts to it that she couldn't fully see, and probably shouldn't. But what she could see was this: he had rules, strong ones. And the main one, the one that everyone around him seemed to understand without being told, was that ordinary people, especially women, especially children, were never to be touched, threatened, or used. In his world, that was the line nobody crossed. Kareem found out where she was about 3 weeks later. Layla still doesn't know exactly how. He showed up one evening with a man she didn't recognize, some kind of official, someone with a badge, acting like this was all a misunderstanding, like he was just a worried husband coming to collect his family. He was polished and calm and very, very convincing. Tariq met them outside. Layla watched from the window. She couldn't hear what was being said, but she could see Tariq standing there, completely still, hands in his pockets, listening to Kareem talk. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't move aggressively. He just listened. And then he said something, a few sentences maybe, and the expression on Kareem's face changed. The man with the badge shifted uncomfortably, and then both of them left. Kareem never came back. Layla asked Tariq what he had said to him. Tariq shrugged and told her it didn't matter. She pushed a little. He said, "I just made the situation clear to him." She didn't ask again. She understood that some things in his world were done quietly, and that the quiet was part of how they worked. What she didn't expect, what she genuinely had not prepared herself for, was that she would start to feel comfortable. Not just safe, actually comfortable, like she could breathe in this house, in this space, around this man who took up a lot of room but somehow never made her feel crowded. Nadia had something to do with it. Children have a way of dissolving tension that adults never manage. Within a week, Nadia had decided that Tariq was her friend. She would walk up to him at breakfast, completely uninvited, and put her drawings on the table next to his coffee. He would look at them seriously, like they were important documents, and ask her questions about them. Nadia loved this. Layla watched it happen from across the room and felt something shift in her chest that she couldn't quite name. She was careful with herself. She knew her own history well enough to know that going from one man to another too fast was a trap, even if the second man seemed completely different from the first. She watched Tariq. She paid attention. She noticed that he never raised his voice around them. She noticed that when she said no to something, even something small, like, "I don't want to go into the city today," he simply said okay and moved on. No pushing, no sulking, no making her feel guilty about it later. She also noticed that he kept his distance in a way that felt deliberate, like he had made a decision early on that she had enough to deal with, and adding anything complicated to that was not something he was willing to do. She respected that. It made her trust him more, actually, not less. About 2 months in, on a quiet Thursday evening while Nadia was asleep, Layla sat with Tariq on the porch and asked him directly why he had helped her that first night. He was quiet for a moment. Then he told her about his younger sister, how she had been in a bad situation once, years ago, and the people around her hadn't done enough. How it had ended badly. He didn't give details. He didn't need to. Layla understood. "So you do this for other people?" she asked. "I do it when I see it," he said. That was the moment, she would later say, that she stopped seeing him as someone who had helped her and started seeing him as someone she actually knew. She went back to work 2 months later. Found a teaching position at a school not far from where they were living, because by that point, moving out felt strange, and Tariq hadn't pushed her either way, and Nadia would have staged a protest if anyone suggested it. She started rebuilding the pieces of her life that had gone missing over the years. Old friendships she had let go of, skills she had stopped using, a version of herself she had almost forgotten existed. The relationship between her and Tariq moved slowly, slower than most, but that was right for both of them. They didn't rush into declarations or big gestures. They just spent time together. They ate meals. They watched Nadia grow bolder and louder and more herself every single week. They talked, really talked, the kind of conversations that go on past midnight and cover everything from childhood memories to what they believed about people and the world. Layla never pretended his life was simple. She knew there were parts of it she stayed out of, and she made peace with that because she understood something important. The man she saw every day, the one who made tea without being asked, and sat on the floor to do puzzles with a 4-year-old, and never once made Layla feel small. That man was real. That wasn't a performance. And she had spent enough years with someone who performed goodness to know the difference. The last thing she expected, when she ran out of that apartment with bare feet and her daughter in her arms, was to find a life on the other side. Not just safety, not just relief. A real, warm, complicated, imperfect life. With a man who had his own darkness but chose every day to be steady for them. There were hard moments too. She won't pretend otherwise. There were nights when the weight of everything, the years with Kareem, the fear she had carried so long it had become part of her posture, the strangeness of starting over in her 30s, landed on her all at once. She would sit in the kitchen at 2 in the morning and just let herself feel it. All of it. Tariq never tried to fix those moments. He would just sit nearby, sometimes not even saying anything, just present. That sounds small. It wasn't. She had spent years with a man who made her feel worse about her own sadness. Having someone who could simply sit with her in it, that was something she had forgotten was possible. Nadia, for her part, bloomed. Children are honest in ways adults are afraid to be, and Nadia made it very clear that she was happy. She started talking more, laughing more. She made friends at her new school with the kind of easy confidence that only comes when a child feels safe at home. Layla watched her daughter run across the garden one afternoon, completely carefree, and had to look away for a second because it hit her so hard that this was what she had been fighting for all those years. Not for herself, for this. For Nadia being able to just run. She didn't think of it as being saved. She thought of it as, the night she ran, a door opened, and she was brave enough to walk through it. And on the other side, there they were,